So we're going to talk about Detroit Rock City. 1999 movie. And I watched this again recently. It was I was in the Navy the first time I saw this, and I was like, man, I love this movie. Here's the thing, right off the bat, need to be clear about this. Kiss sucks. All right, they're a terrible band, and I'm not trying to piss off you Kiss Army people out there. I'm not trying to do that. But let's be honest, they sucked. All right, especially in the time that they sucked. When you're talking about the kind of music that was coming out in the late 70s, and then you got the Kiss, and their songs have all the depth of, I don't know, like a bird bath, you know. Now, arguably, their best song is Strutter, which I think is a pretty good song. But let's be honest, it's about a hot... Granted, that kind of thing is beautiful and worth writing poems about, all right? But there's not a whole lot of depth to just look at the hot chick walking down the street. You know, I know a thing or two about her. She gets her way like a child. But I mean, there's not a whole lot of depth to Kiss. And let's be honest, you know, it was just a couple of nerdy guys, all right, who decided, hey man, how are we ever going to get laid when our faces look like this? And like, I know, we'll get into a band. We'll become a band. And women like banging dudes in bands. And Ace Frehley in the back. Wait. Yeah, yes, Ace. What is it? It's like, what about the us being ugly thing? Problem solved. Problem solved. We put on a bunch of weird-ass makeup, make ourselves look like demons or monsters or something like that. And then we go play shallow songs about how about tonight I'm going to rock you tonight. You know? I want to rock and roll all night and party every day. I mean, it's not exactly real deep music. And so I'm sorry, Kiss sucks. That being said, how dare you make me side with the Stellas and the Guidos? All right? First of all, it's not like there's an either or. All right? You either like Kiss or you love disco. All right? I like Kiss. They're not great, but they're okay. I like disco. And I don't know if you know this about music, but there's a lot more musical complexity and depth in every disco song than there is in Kiss songs. I know a lot of the disco stuff is like, I like the nightlife, I like the boogie. It's the same type of stuff. It's the same type of stuff, except it's actually musically good, and so chicks want to dance with it. That's why when you go to a Kiss concert, you're not going to see a whole lot of chicks running around. Because chicks want to dance. You know what I'm saying? So... But the good news is about this movie is that not only Kiss songs are featured in the soundtrack. Thank you so very much, because Kiss, after all, is just one little brief flash in the pan of genius of all the little flashes of pans in of genius that happened in the late 70s. And that's what made the music good, is because you can listen to Strutter and then you don't have to listen to the rest of the Kiss album if you don't want to. You can go listen to something else, like the Bee Gees. And so that's out of the way. All right. But all that being said, this movie is the best concert experience movie ever made. Hands down. You don't have to like the band. For God's sakes, listen, I'm throwing around accusations about Kiss, but the single artist that I went to see the most in concert, you ready for this? Dave Matthews Band. All right? So who am I? Who am I to be judging Kiss? Okay? But I mean, Dave Matthews Band and like Emmett Swimming, and there's a few little bands that ended up being a life draft that got me through the 90s because I hated grunge so much. Anyway. That's a whole different story. But this is the best concert experience movie ever made. These four guys who were in I should just say this, the band Mystery, which is a Kiss cover band, which I imagine if you're a Kiss cover band, it takes about half a day to learn the entire catalog, right? Half a day. It's like, oh, it's the same chords, just different strum pattern. I'm like, yeah. So they're a Kiss cover band, and they're all excited to go to the Kiss concert in Detroit at Cobo Hall. I think 1979, and Jam he is the drummer. He is the moral backbone of the group, and he's my favorite character. Even though Edward Furlong is a close second because of what happened to him. Anyway, and Jam's mom is one of these satanic panic Christian ladies who are like, oh, Kiss is the devil's music. And I like that Kiss has a sense of humor about themselves to understand that that was happening in society. People were saying they're satanic and stuff like that. And we're just like, hey, we just want to rock and roll all night and party every day. You know, it's all it is. We're just a couple of ugly guys trying to get laid, you know. And if we have to use extreme imagery to get there, by all means, you know, imagine how many times they like, the girl's like, no, don't take the makeup off. I like it with the makeup on. Anyway, so they go on this adventure to go see, I almost said Van Halen, better group. They went to go to see this concert at Cobo Hall in Detroit. And so when they won concert tickets. They were listening to the radio, and they called the radio station to win the concert to name every real member of Kiss. And so they won the concert tickets, but they're calling from school. And so the guy who, Tripp, I think his name was, made the call. He's like, yeah, we won. And then just hung up the phone. Didn't give him any information, stuff like that. So they gave him to the next caller who got the right answer. And so, but they didn't find that out. This was the 70s after all. It's not like they got a text notification. But they finally get all the way to Detroit with a lot of adventures on the way to get to Detroit. They go to the radio station to get their tickets. They're like, sorry, pal. And they played the tape back for him where he just hung up before they got the information. Said, sorry, you didn't win. So, and this is like the best part of the movie is where they come to this point where there's like a decision, the second act, fantastic second act. And they come to this point, it's like, okay, we're getting into this show. All of us, every man for himself, has to go out and do whatever they have to do to get a ticket to this show. And so they split up, and it's like a little Twilight Zone, little vignettes, these four little stories of these guys going off trying to get concert tickets for Kiss. And it's a brilliant movie, brilliant move in the movie to do that. Because they all have these little goofy adventures. Like Tripp says, oh, I'm just going to beat up a kid and take his ticket. And then the kid has an older brother. And, and he gets his, a little bit of comeuppance. But my favorite story is the Edward Furlong story. Because there's a lot of real funny lines and funny, like probably one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in a movie. With Edward Furlong's little Twilight Zone vignette. To get his ticket. And it's like, comes up to the scalper. Scalper's like, oh, how much? And he's like, how much you want for the ticket? And the scalper says, well, I want this. I forget the amount. What was it? $6? And it's like, it was probably like 50 something bucks, 70, 80 bucks. And so he's like, yeah, he's like, well, if you come up with the cash, it's like, so where am I going to get that kind of cash? And he points to this, what is it called? Like a male strip club across the street with having an amateur contest tonight for the, for $100 or something like that. It's like, well, why don't you go in there and shake your wee-wee for $100? It's like, I can't do that. I got stage fright. He's a lead singer of Mystery, by the way. I got stage fright. I can't go in there. And he's like, well, then do you really want to miss Kiss at Cobo Hall in Detroit, Rock City? And the scalper is real great character too, because he pitches it to this kid, and the kid's like, all right, so go in there and shake your wee-wee. So he does. He goes into this, what is it? What do you call it? They call gentlemen's clubs for men, but you call them ladies' clubs? No. It's a male strip club. And so he goes in there on amateur night, and this lady, I think it was Sharon Tweed, she's like ex-porn star, still looking fantastic, is like buying him scotch, and he's drinking like a man, at the bar, and he signed up to dance and so forth. He's hammered. They finally call him up, and the whole scene of him calling him, I'm sure you can find this one clip on YouTube, but it's friggin' hilarious. And he gets up, he's like, and he falls immediately, oh, then he jumps back up and victory pose, and he triumphantly slow-mo walks up to the stage, and then just immediately starts barfing. He grabs like a pitcher that put beer in. He grabs off a waitress's tray, puts it down he's on the stage, and just, all right, first of all, there are some people who say that you never need to put somebody vomiting on film. This is quite possibly the funniest moment of people vomiting on film, and I'm dying laughing the entire time. Because he's just ripping, blowing chunks into then he stops, right? This is the most brilliant scene. And he's just sitting there on his hands and knees on the floor going, which tells you Edward Furlong has been there before. Then he jumps up and dances to Strutter, right? He didn't win the concert, but Shannon Tweed, was it Sharon Tweed? I forget. I don't keep track of my old porn stars. But Shannon Tweed?
I think.
Yeah, EK says it's Shannon. Anyway, so she takes him under her wing and fools around with him for money, so he can get to the Kiss concert. But he goes. They finally meet back up. They have their little stories. They meet back up, and I think the only one who got any money was Ed Furlong's character. They're all kind of screwed. It's like, we're not getting into this concert. But Tripp's character got beat up. And so they come up with this idea. It's like, why don't we just beat the crap out of each other and just say that somebody had beat us up and stole our tickets to see if we can get in the show that way. So they kick the crap out of each other and go in to go see the concert. I'm not going to spoil the very ending. I spoiled a lot of it. I'm sorry. But I love this movie to pieces. Yeah, so, Jam, he's the moral backbone of the group. I like that. Plus, he's being stalked by a cute Jewish chick, Like, she's sitting there in class. He's sitting there drawing Kiss on his notebooks and stuff like that, and she's writing Jam, Jeremy. And she's just sitting there. Jam, I bet he doesn't have to have a bar mitzvah. I bet he doesn't have to go home every night and study the Torah. I forget her name. It was like Melanie something. She ended up doing bit parts on TV, like 2.5 Men and stuff like that. Good looking chick. So Detroit Rock City, 1999, 12 of 13 stars. -1 star because Kiss sucks. Sorry. I said it about 80 times in that movie review, so I hope I made my point clear.
The madman